I think that's your job. Like, am I crazy? Or is that his job? First up, many of you guys pinged me regarding Brian Harpole, an interview that he did with Sean Ryan. Now, Brian Harpole is one of Charlie Kirk's long-term security members, team members. And on the day of the assassination, you'll recognize he's the guy that had the black strap. I don't know if we have a photo. He had a bag across him, and he was standing to the front right of Charlie, kind of looking out at the audience. You're going to see him in a second. He is the one who then runs over to Charlie. And again, you recognize him because he kind of has that small, supposed to be a medical bag over him. Now, I have not watched this interview in its entirety, but from what I have seen thus far, it is just not that convincing. For one, Brian offers up that the lack of security on the rooftop can actually be attributed to the UVU police chief, Jeff Long. Here is what he had to say.
On Monday before, this correspondence went to Chief Long. Hello, Chief Long. We received this message today from the student group. There is a student roof access pretty close to where CK will be set up at the Utah Valley. The Sorensen Center has a couple of staircases that go up to walkways on the roofs. He comes back, and for edification, the Sorensen Center was the building in front of the Lucy Center. And so he comes back and he says, you want access to the roof. And came back and said, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well, if possible. He comes back, and his last correspondence was, I got you covered. What else am I to do? When a command level person from an accredited police department says, I've got this area. Jeez.
Please pick me. Okay. When you're like in school and you got to hold your hand up because you really want a teacher to see you. I have an answer for what else you could have done. You could have followed up because it's your job and Charlie paid you millions of dollars not to pass the buck. No. Also, you asked the police chief an either or question. And I'm just kind of like trying to understand the basic construct of sentences. He said, got you covered. What does that mean? It was an either or. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Can either provide us access or get somebody up there. Got you covered means what? No follow up. That's it. Millions and millions of dollars on his security annually. And you just said, hey, a student told us that there's a rooftop and it would be good if we could have access to it. Or if one of your guys could secure it. Got you covered. That's it. That's what Charlie was paying for. That's obviously absurd. That is not an answer that should be accepted by anyone. I am not blown away by that. I'm not going, oh, this is UVU's fault. Okay. By the way, Jeff Long also has a very extensive military career. I obviously have been very clear that I believe that this was a military level assassination. Everyone on the ground that day, every witness for some reason, this is not a military academy, but everybody that we can speak to that's somehow involved has an extensive military background. I'm not interested in Jeff Long's participation in this, but Brian Harpole sort of laments the fact that he won't speak up and people are losing their jobs. On the basis of that answer, you should all be fired. Just on the basis of that answer, you didn't have it within you to go, let me follow up and make sure that's been secured because that's my job. Let me walk the path and see. The fact that a student told you and you didn't know that, shouldn't you have told the student? You shouldn't you have said to the student, hey, we're looking at a map because it's amazing. It's 2025 and there's this thing called Google Maps. So we're actually looking at a map and we see where Charlie's going to sit and we're wondering about this roof. Could you let us know how we're supposed to access that? Why is the student and the chief leading the charge and not you when you are paid for executive level security? It is an unacceptable answer. Look, I've worked with Brian. Nice guy. That's a ridiculous answer. He should be fired. And I'm going to guess he's not going to be, but he should be fired. Of course, he should be fired. Elsewhere in the interview, he responds to the question of why they didn't at least have drone coverage on that day since they have flown drones, many drones at TPUSA events in the past. Here's his answer to that.
In your coordination with UVU, I mean, did they offer any assistance, anything at all?
Yeah.
Did you ask them of anything?
Absolutely. So we come in and we start looking at things immediately. Like, man, where are our risks? You know, what's our risk assessment when we come in? That's why we get there. That's why we start doing the advance so early. We walk it, you know, we build it ourselves. And so initially, I spent thousands of dollars on drones last year and got the guy's license. But if the area lies in the Provo, Utah airspace, I can't fly it. That's a 107B. We can't break the rules. Right. And then you had secondary restrictions, probably due to heavy foot traffic for the school, but I can't go in and break the rules. There's laws for a reason. And so now the school could have flown drones, the PD, but they didn't have them. Right. But Orem PD has a drone unit active and professional, and that police department, I will tell you right now, is awesome. They get it. They were there. They helped both on the soft side and the hard side. And so I started asking questions like, do you guys have a drone unit? Yeah. Good. Do you have an MOU or a mutual aid agreement with the school? And they're like, yeah. I said, did they call you and ask for assistance? No. I'm like, why wouldn't you call?
Well, I think that's your job. Like, am I crazy? Or is that his job? Is it his job to call and to see things through if Charlie's paying him for executive level security? Like, is this how these assassinations happen? Is that what's happening even like at the White House level with the Thomas Crooks thing? Is that what happened? Like Secret Service just called locally in Pennsylvania and was like, hey, that looks like trouble up there. Could you maybe get a guy up there or let me know or if like whatever? And then they were just like, yeah, sure. Gotcha. And then they just figured it was accomplished. I don't accept any of that. You shouldn't accept any of that, nor do I find him to be convincing, right? The vibe I'm getting from that interview is dishonesty. Okay. I'd like to see more of your conversation, not this screenshot that doesn't prove anything other than that you started a conversation about the rooftop, that you were aware there was an open rooftop and didn't follow up in some measure. And so it's a little bit ridiculous to be passing the buck. So thank you for the receipt. That wasn't actually a receipt. Next up, we have Blake Neff. Obviously, you guys will recall Blake Neff was the Turning Point USA employee that was standing directly next to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious Mikey McCoy when the shots rang out. And Blake Neff, has similarly decided to drop a receipt. This happened, I think, actually last week, of his actions on that day. Now, to jog your memory, he offered up a pretty strong defense of the magnificent Mikey McCoy, who he says had a quivering lip. And I'm going to let you listen to Blake's account of that day again as a reminder before we get to his receipt. Take a listen.